autoimmune syndrome, and I always start with the flush. Where can you learn the flush? You can learn it at Metabolic Mentor University, so we can break it down what flush you need, how you flush them. You have to clear the lymphatic system, remove cellular inflammation, flush out the gut. What can we give them? We could give them, I tell you what, if anybody from this call goes and sees Sharon, here we go, I'm gonna get in trouble for this shit. Here we go, I'm gonna get in trouble and I'm gonna do it. I'm doing it anyways. It's my show. I'm gonna do what I want, right? I'm not leaving. If you book a call with MMU right now, go to Metabolic Mentor University, I will honor for the next week, I'm going to give 20% off. They're going to kill me. I'm going to give 20% off, but you have to book it within the next 3 days. Somebody on here, tell Sharon that, because she's going to fucking kill me. And I don't care, because it's my show. And I do what I want. All right, moving on. Let's go ahead and let's get to some questions. Roll it on down. Question number 1, y'all. Okay. Hi, Vince. Can pregnancy reverse gut issues? Example, bad bacteria. Shelly, this is a really, really good question. And what I try to tell women all the time is a fantastic pregnancy where you take care of yourself functionally, you eat a Mediterranean diet, you work on stress management, you sleep enough and stay active, can reverse years of metabolic issues, pro-inflammatory conditions. I see it all the time. An amazing pregnancy can reverse almost a decade of health issues if done correctly. And I recommend doing that in what we call a pregnancy prep or a fertility prep into post-fertility prep. We do that at Nutrition Dynamic. I highly recommend it. What I will say is that what's important is that you make sure you take products that are great for healthy fertility that's genetically indicated. So like methylfolate, choline, manganese, B2, B6, it goes on. These are so important, and methylated folic acid. Those are some of the keys to the game and balancing everything else for pregnancy. So please take that advice, Shelly, but absolutely you can. I see it all the time. Next question. Well, there you go. All right, we just like to drop some cool stuff. The Practitioner course, brother, keeps bringing truth from all angles. We did just release a Practitioner course that teaches you all about hormones, peptides, how you use compounds, and how you get an unfair advantage as a coach, or if you're someone looking to solve some of your metabolic issues. You can check out our Practitioner course. Again, that will have 20% off as well. We're just dropping some of the great comments and questions that we got from the chat, or from our stories. So thank you. I don't know who that is. Gaz PT. All right, next up. How to avoid muscle waste with semaglutide? This question comes up a lot because more and more people are using semaglutide all the time. And I think the first thing that I'm going to tell you is that if you're going to use semaglutide and you're not going to eat a balanced diet and you're just going to undereat, do not overtrain. Your body needs at least 2 to 3 weeks to get used to the lower blood sugars that it causes. So you're going to want to switch away, in my opinion, away from hypertrophy failure training and move over to something that is more of a combination movement, more functional. I would do like some kettlebell at first, or again, you can do mind muscle training where you're focusing, it's like AMPK training, where it's really slow lifting, high rep, not much weight, not to failure, focusing on the mind muscle connection and only going a couple days a week. That's all you really need to do. I would focus particularly on females on more yoga, meditation, walking, things like that. That's the number one thing you can do to prevent muscle wasting. I see way too many people taking semaglutide, under eating and overtraining, and they're just going to eat a bunch of muscle and make their weight loss resistance worse later. Let's take some questions from the chat. Where's all my people at? I see a lot of people in here loading on in. Drop in the chat where you're watching from. Where the hell you at in the world? Are you in a different country? Are you in a different state? And let me know how your Monday was. Was it a 1 out of 10? Was it low stress, so was it pretty good? Or was it a 10 out of 10? Drop it in the chat. Let me know. Can you talk on MTHFR mutation soon? Yeah, hey, Mama Nessie, I can talk a little bit about that right now because I can take any question right from the dome live. So methyl issues, what does that mean? So when we talk about genes, I think the medical community thinks that you're too ignorant. So what they do is they just talk about one gene or this gene or that gene, and then everyone gets afraid of that one gene. And I think it's very important to understand that the body always has backup genes or genes that interact with that gene. I don't necessarily like just talking about one gene here and there because it's not... the answer isn't going to be complete. Now, I want you to think of your genes as like a water line going into the house. There are certain genes that are the main line that carry all the water into the home. And then there are some genes that are like the splits, right, into the home, into smaller parts of the house, maybe up to the bathroom or something like that, that break off into smaller components. But at every break off, those gene SNPs are all working together to create the flow of water, right? So, you know, there are genes that are the big genes that are almost the main line into a house. One of those is MTHFR, okay? So that has everything to do with the ability to take folic acid, attach a methyl group to it, and make it methylfolate. Now, why is this important? Methylfolate is indicated in essentially, or methylation is indicated in almost every cellular process that you have, from building muscle to converting hormones to converting neurotransmitters. So if you get really stressed, or if your body's under a lot of inflammation, or you're trying to build a lot of muscle per se, or put your body under a lot of duress, if you don't have enough methyl groups to help with the conversions, you'll create backups in your process that will manifest as a bunch of random symptoms. It can as anxiety, depression, fatigue, it can lead to immunological conditions, gut issues, kind of, a lot of these things are in play. Now, some of these symptoms kind of depend on some of the other genes that fall in alignment with the original main line, as I'm saying. So do you have MTHFR, COMT, MAOA? A lot of gene factors that pair with it to make worse symptoms or more serious symptoms. You can find that by using the Pro7 gene test. It's on our website. It's the most inexpensive and most complete gene test you're going to find online. You can check that out. But essentially, methylation, right? What is methylation? It is essentially we will use the metaphor of giving a big hug and never letting go, okay? So your body, to convert something, if I have estradiol and I need to convert it out of the system, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a methyl group, and a methyl group is taking folic acid, attaching, right, and converting and putting a methyl group to it. So you have methylfolate, right? And essentially you're converting that folic acid, and it will help convert different things in the body. So if you cannot create enough methyl groups, right, then you can't convert all the folic acid in your body. So a lot of people, right, what'll happen is that they have an MTHFR gene SNP. What'll happen is they don't have enough methyl groups to convert estrogen. So they'll go estrogen dominant, or they'll have poor estrogen detox pathways. But more importantly, if they're eating too much of a SAD diet, a standard American diet, then they're not converting all the folic acid that they're getting from fortified grains and everything like that. So their folic acid levels can get out of control, leading to anxiety, depression, and other symptoms like that. So that's why a lot of times MTHFR is included in mood disorders along with estrogen detox pathway issues or estrogen dominance. Let's see, struggling with hydration despite 2.5 liters. Oh, Katie. We got she's a troublemaker, big pain in my ass. Katie is asking a question. I'm kidding. Katie is a great friend. We were just with her this weekend. Struggling with hydration despite 2.5 liters of water and 3 grams of sodium. What would you look at in terms of hydration? So I don't know what struggling with hydration means. Are you still getting cramping? Sometimes you get something called hyperhydration, where you almost need to starve yourself of water for a day and let your body reset. You may be taking in too much water with everything, and it's hyper eliminating the water, so that the more you drink, the more dehydrated you become. It's almost like salt water. So what I suggest for you at first, go through a day where you try to fast water until 6 p.m. And then try to reset it. Right? Take it out, reset, see if that helps. I don't know if you're maybe training too much, or if there's other cofactors when you say struggling with hydration. But some people get into like hyperhidrosis or something like that, where water keeps eliminating so fast. So they put more water in and more electrolytes, and it makes them, eliminate more. So they actually become more dehydrated. Be careful with that. What can cause high SHBG on a male with normal tests, DHEA, and 34 on estrogen? Been taking Estrocort for a few months. Steph, well, chronic dieting would be the first one. So I don't know what this individual is doing. The other thing that it could be also is that they are, if they have thyroid issues, right? That would be a big driver of SHBG. I may look at a Dutch test for more information, but a lot of stress, right? A lot of starvation and thyroid issues a lot of times will cause SHB to be high. In some men too, it is a bit genetically related. You may want to talk to him about using replacement oxandrolone therapy. They do that at Advanced Vitality, HRT, where they give just a little bit, a microdose of it to help clear SHBG, and that might be what he needs to get back over the top of it. All right, moving on. Let's take a question from our stories, actually. Producer Keone, cue it up. How to fix low cortisol. One of these, when you get a question like this, there's always the car analogy, right? So if I was trying to improve the fuel efficiency of a car, the first thing I would say is take your foot off the pedal. So like there's something that you can do physically in your lifestyle. The second thing is that you can input new mechanics inside the vehicle to make it more fuel efficient. Those would be things like, in this case, like improving your health, right? And taking supplements, for example. And then another thing is if I'm trying to make maybe, let's say, a car faster or something like that, or if I'm still, let's stay on the fuel efficiency, is go to a better gas, right? So that means a higher octane gas, right? So I might go to the 93 instead of the 87, and that's better food, right? So there's always three levels of answers that I can give to any functional issue. So with low cortisol, the first thing you got to do is take your foot off the gas. Okay, start sleeping a little bit more, right? Mental, emotional kindness, calm your mind, stop fearing and worrying so much. And that can be hard to do. You may have to use some support for that. It's not as easy as it sounds. Then if we're going to work at cortisol, we have to figure out where it's coming from. I chill on my workouts. Then I'm going to take a lot of adrenal cortex, okay? It's a glandular. So I like, for example, Adrena Health from New Ethics. It's got corticoid B5, B6, which is basically the signaling from the brain to the adrenals to produce more cortisol. Also, the adrenal cortex helps support the nourishment of the adrenal gland. Then I'm going to add something like, let's say, adrenal stress. So that's going to have a lot of the other B vitamins in it, vitamin C, zinc, and a lot of things that support adrenal function. And lastly, if you want to add something else is really strong adaptogen support, you can go with ashwagandha, you can go with lion's mane, you can go with bacopa or Asian ginseng, one of those. And that would be the protocol that I would give for low cortisol. But you got to take your foot off the gas, and you got to improve the fuel that you're using inside your body, which means cleaning up your diet. Mediterranean diet would be advised. All right, more questions from the chat. Let's do it. What do we got? Let's see. Hit me with your best. Hit me with your worst. What does it mean if a Dutch shows pretty normal cortisol patterns, but very low metabolized cortisol? It's a very good question. Oftentimes, it would mean that there is some type of underlying inflammation inside of the body, okay? That your body's having a hard time converting it. Now, if you are someone that uses a lot of like licorice, like in a tea, or you're someone who takes a lot of cortisol boosting products, it may be in the products that you're taking that are inhibiting its metabolism, right? Now, if you have normal cortisol levels and they look good, then your body doesn't necessarily need to metabolize that too much, right? I would say that a lot of times it has to do with a layer of cellular inflammation. It could be a lot of emotional stress inside the body. Usually hypothyroidism is associated with really low metabolized cortisol. But in this case, if your cortisol levels are normal, modify your lifestyle, reduce some inflammation, and that by itself should help balance it out. Next up, what do we got? Man, people are light on the questions today. Go down a little bit. Definitely right there. I think she's responding back. Steph said, definitely not chronic dieting, normal thyroid. I don't know what normal thyroid means, but we'll take that. I think, what was her question? Do you remember what she was asking me? Go back up. What did she say? I don't know what she said. What did she ask? Oh, what causes high HBG? Well, Steph, here's the issue, is that if there was any form of anorexia or dieting issues early on in their life, you don't have to have it now. So for example, if you take an ED female from her youth, SHBG can stay high with you for a very, very long time. Now, sometimes it can be a liver issue. So maybe he wants to go see a liver specialist. You might want to do additional liver testing because sometimes a high SHBG can mean like a liver issue or sometimes a bone issue. I don't know how high it is. If it's high normal, I wouldn't be too worried about it. If it's astronomically high, I would definitely send them in for additional testing. They may even consider doing a biopsy. Again, though, it can also be slightly genetically related. Some men will do that. Do you know what it means when HLA is found in your blood? So that's an abbreviation for a lot of things. Let me take a look at what you're maybe talking about here. HLA in blood. Are you talking about, okay, human leukocyte antigen? I hope that's what you're talking about. That's for donors for bone marrow. So yeah, I guess if you have high, is that what she's asking? If you have high HLA? Yeah. Yes. Okay. Well, so Tiny Beast, this is interesting. So you will always have a little bit of HLA in your blood. If you have high volumes, that is an antigen. This is what we're talking about. Leukocyte androgens. That's what we deal with in OID, overactive immune disorder, or where we call it autoimmune syndrome, where your body is producing all these antigens and you don't know what's triggering it, what's happening, and you can get your body to eat those out. It's a bit of a longer conversation than what's on here. There can be multiple reasons for that. That's why origin's kind of unknown. That's why it's better to go after the immune system rather than some other, maybe what we think is the smoking gun of the problem. All right, what do we got here? I believe Trudeau is trying to regulate supplements in Canada. Canada's always been doing that, Chloe. That's nothing new. Would we still be able to order from you guys? If so, yes, Chloe. Yeah, absolutely. As of right now, 100%. And then if people have problems with getting their orders into Canada, you can send us an email to, I believe is it operations? I think we're sending it to operations@nutritiondynamic.com. You can send it to operations@nutritiondynamic.com. Say you're having a challenge of getting stuff in. They will work with you on maybe sending out a private order or figuring out how to get you what you need or find what you need in your area. I know that New Ethics now has, a lot of our products have been approved in Canada, so we should be having distribution sometime soon. When you do look first when waking up, where do you look first when waking up in the middle of the night every night? Has had poor sleeping patterns for a while now. Okay, so once again, coming back to the car analogy between, how aggressively are you driving? What kind of fuel are you using? And what am I doing to make the car more fuel efficient? I think the first thing is, like, it always comes back to how hard are you driving, right? So how hard are you putting your foot on the gas? Is this individual driving 100 miles an hour and then coming to a straight halt and just trying to go to bed, right? Because I think first what we need to recognize is that someone who has a really hard time going to sleep has to significantly focus on landing the plane before they go to bed, reading, Epsom salt baths, right? Getting away from anything stimulatory for at least 2 hours. Because as their body gets better at going back to sleep, they won't have to do it so long. But at first you have to. Meditation, super important. Blood glucose is a huge thing. They could be having spikes or crashes. So I like actually setting their circadian rhythm by controlling when they eat in the morning and at night. That can have a really big factor in their natural circadian rhythm. So for some people, that means eating right before bed. For some people, that means eating in a fasted window starting in the morning and then stopping their eating after 2 or 4 o'clock. I usually, for me, I have them eat before bed and then right when they get up to try to reset their circadian rhythm. And then maybe I might intermittent fast them more later. I personally like working neurotransmitters. That's like working the fuel efficiency variables that you can institute in a car. So that's where I would use like liposomal relax, because you've got liposomal GABA. GABA converts glutamate, which keeps people up, into GABA, obviously, and then which is a calmatory neurotransmitter. Then it also has a lot of other herbal components that help calm the body. It has some melatonin to draw them into sleep. If that route doesn't work, again, they could be under anxiety and worry, and we might need to be talking about the psychological components of sleep. After that, I have a couple other tricks up my sleeve. I love chamomile. I love kava tea at night, as long as I don't have liver issues. So those are some components to definitely consider. All right, moving on. Don't we have one more question from our stories? We'll knock it out. Here we go. So Ashley asks, can I get my period back lost during prep while still in prep? Ashley, the simple answer is commonly not, and you may not want to do that. If you are in the middle of a prep and you are continuing to try to get lean and you stop that process to try to go back and get your period, you're probably going to get none. Meaning you're not going to get your period back and your show is not going to go very well. So unless you work with a really expert functional practitioner, it's too risky to try to go back and get your cycle. Although what I would try to do, if I was you, is that I would try to use my diet to get more lean and less of my training. Because what your body's telling you is that you're probably a little stressed. But some people genetically, though, when their body fat gets too low, they're going to have a hard time having a period. And if you know you're going to do a bunch of shows and not have your period, then I might add a little bit of progesterone and estradiol. I would have to look at all of your hormones to make a decision about that. Some people, if you just lost your period, you can get it back by adding Progon B drops. I would start with 3 in the morning. Make sure you take them orally and not transdermally. A little bit of progesterone can go a long way at bringing the cycle back. And so you could start there. Don't forget, again, if your testosterone's really low, you can add some DHEA. That's why I love Jumpstart. Jumpstart has almost all the layers of hormones that you would need to jumpstart your period back up. And if it doesn't happen within the first month, you're probably not likely to get it back while you're going through prep. So get through the prep, get done with the show, and then start working slowly to get your cycle back. And then next time, try to plan a little bit better. Try not to lose it if you can. That would be preferable, but that may not always happen depending on your genetics. All right, next question. Let's take questions live from the chat. What do we got? Top recommendations for improving T3 production. Would you increase thyroid boost dosage? Well, you can do that sometimes. It's not a terrible idea. But most people, most people, when they have lower T3 levels, all that's reflecting is that you've been chronically dieting or training a lot for a while and you need to do a reset. Right? You might need to do a deload type of training. You might need to do a reverse diet. You may need to go to diet variation and switch up your diet dramatically. And then also give more conversion support, like Thyroid Boost Essentials, a lot of selenium, zinc, maybe some tyrosine, maybe some iodine, taking those factors in. And again, a full complement thyroid panel would be good here, looking at TSH, free T3, free T4, iodine, reverse T3. If you want, maybe just to make sure it's not Hashimoto's related, you would add a TPO. So check that out. Advice on using marshmallow root, slippery elm, and sea moss. I love all of those ingredients, particularly for gut issues. Also, I like them for anti-inflammatory purposes and healthy gut motility. So I take a lot of these ingredients. I don't know if you're taking them in supplement or in tincture or in powder, Jordan, because that would make a bit of a big difference, actually, in how you take them. I'm assuming you're having these in a powder from the way that you're describing them, or a liquid tincture. The way that I like taking those is usually either 15 or 20 minutes before or after eating, preferably before. Next up, if your goal is hypertrophy, would doing a diet variation of Mediterranean keto together inhibit mTOR pathways? Well, Markham, you're asking some very specific questions. And what I'll tell you about this is no. Remember, the things that drive mTOR are carbs, protein, and calories. So as long as your calories don't get that low, you could still drive mTOR. And in fact, Markham, sometimes I have people do 1 meal a day where they don't eat all day. And then I have them eat maybe 2,000 or 3,000 calories in 1 meal and really try to drive that mTOR. But through the rest of the day, I was helping with autophagy. But as long as I drive that mTOR and I get enough calories in a healthier body, that works almost better for some people. And it's not inhibiting the mTOR pathway for recovery. Let's see. How to help get hunger up and increase motility with someone who is underweight and need to gain weight, but has no hunger and slow motility. Jordan, this is always an interesting topic, right? One of the things that I think I'll tell you is the same thing that I just said to the last individual, playing with our feast-fast schedules. One of the things that I might encourage is, and I think this is important with people that can't get enough calories in, we cannot be so married to eating clean that we don't hit the calorie requirements that we need to hit. In a case of building muscle, it's more important to get the calories in than it is to eat anti-inflammatory. Therefore, some of your priorities need to change. In a case like this, it is okay to use fat gainers. It is okay to use, there are starchy gainers that only use sweet potato that you can get. Again, I really like mass builders in this case, so don't be afraid to use them. I love dates, by the way. Dates will jack a lot of carbs in your system and in a very small package. Again, drinking a lot of your calories helps a lot. I think the big challenge with a lot of people who have a hard time gaining weight is they psychologically also have a hard time gaining weight. So part of the stress of that turns off the hunger response. So it makes it very hard to eat the food. One of the things that you can do is you can intermittent fast at first, drive that hunger pretty heavy. Another one that I love to bring up hunger hormone, I'm going to tell you, this is the 2 times I would like using it. This is where CBD or mixed with THC or using peptides. Peptides drive ghrelin, CJC, ipamorelin, smorelin, things like that. Tesamorelin will help drive hunger. So definitely look into those peptides. All right, we're rocking and rolling here, gang. Let's see where we're at. 6:35, man, we've been killing it with the questions today. What do we got? When should a female get labs postpartum? Do you wait till their cycle is back? No, train like Jane. I don't always do that. I will tell you that for me, I usually wait. It depends on what's going on with the body. If they're having a lot of health issues, I'm going to do it within 6 to 8 weeks. If everything's moving fine, their weight's dropping, everything looks good, I'm going to do it in 10 to 12 weeks. Some people want to wait till your cycle comes back, but I might want to optimize your body to help the cycle come back. So anywhere, if they're having health issues, 6 to 8 weeks. If they're not, 10 to 12 weeks. All right, I am an ND client. Well, hey, we are glad to have you. Woohoo, she says. And I just started the gut protocol. Why would one need to repeat it more than once? I've heard some clients have had to repeat it. Well, the gut is, and this is a great question, the gut is like the Amazon forest. You know, you have anywhere from 7 to 8 pounds of bacteria in there. You have this diverse wilderness. It is not as simple as people think it is, where it's like, oh, I have gut problems, I'm just going to remove some bacteria. That would be as simple as like, oh, we have a wolf problem at Yellowstone, let's just kill all the wolves. Well, when you kill all the wolves, what happens to the rest of the animals, right? We saw the impact that wolves have had on Yellowstone. Watch some of the documentaries. Very similar to your gut. If you just take out a whole bunch of bacteria and you don't replace it correctly, sometimes, again, like for example, a lawn analogy, right? Sometimes you run through a season of growing a lawn, you don't get it all right the first time, so you have to go back and finish it off. So it's not uncommon, but at Nutrition Dynamic, we have a very small relapse rate, way better than the rest of the medical system, and almost an average. Our success rate is like around 96% with a relapse rate that might be maybe 1 in 6. Which is pretty good. And it's probably just a couple week cleanup for some people. So I wouldn't be worried too much about that. But to suggest that one round through a gut protocol is going to get it done is to undersimplify the diversity in the ecosystem that is the gut. All right, next question. Let's get to it. How long would you suggest a 41-year-old woman try to boost progesterone levels naturally before considering HRT? Well, it depends how long you've been in a caloric surplus. If you've been in a caloric surplus for at least 3 to 4 months and you are practicing really, really good stress management and that is not working, I would move to Progon B first, a couple drops, and then you can go from there into oral progesterone. That can be an option for you as well. However, you may not be getting your hormones back because of something called hormone insensitivity, and that would fall under the purview of our program called OID. That could be the root cause, could be your immune system, something to think about. All right, Casey Vito Fitness says, when trying to lose weight post-menopausal and taking estrogen blockers, are there any special considerations with this or recommendations? The first thing is, Casey, is the worst thing you can do is take estrogen blockers. Why is this person on estrogen blockers when they're postmenopausal? Is it because of cancer? And even if they're outside the 5-year window, one of the most dangerous things that people can take are anti-estrogens. It kills people. Strokes, heart attacks, weight loss resistance, immune upregulations. I mean, if you look at Depo, for example, which zeroes out your estrogen, right? It is under different class action suits for causing its implications with autoimmune disorders. Like when you simulate and you zero out estrogen to nothing, it is one of the most damaging and anti-aging things you can do to your body. Not to mention it skyrockets your cardiovascular risk factors, stroke and heart disease. I do not recommend them. They're what kill people in bodybuilding more than anything. It's terrible. All right, awesome. Next question. Groom in life. Currently taking Phentermine to help hunger control. No, I need to stop, but when not taking it, I always think about food. This is the trap that Phentermine is, and I'm so sorry that you are here. So when you use amphetamines like Phentermine, it will suppress ghrelin, which is hunger hormone at first. Unfortunately, what happens is those kinds of medications are very catabolic, meaning that they will eat a lot more muscle tissue than they will fat tissue, okay? And when you suppress hunger hormone and you lose too much muscle, when you come off the Phentermine, it will rebound, meaning that ghrelin will go 3 to 5 times higher its normal amount. So you will have this insatiable hunger. And you will eat a lot more, but you will have lost some of your metabolic rate that would protect you against weight gain in environments of high calories. So now you gain weight faster than you did before you used the Phentermine. So then what do? Go back on the Phentermine. It is an addictive cycle. It is abusive. The people that prescribe those drugs, they know it. They are pill pushers. In my opinion, they are the evil empire. They should be disbarred or whatever. They should lose their medical license because we know it doesn't work. And I'm so sorry you're here. I highly recommend working with a functional practitioner that can help balance your hormones back out so you don't have that happening. We help get your metabolism working again and hopefully on the road to freedom from these kind of medications. All right, we're going to take a couple more questions. Leanna Baby or Leanna Abbey, something like that. All right, there we go. That's like almost sounds like a music song or like music video or something like that. What would drive progesterone dominance? Well, first off, there's nothing wrong with progesterone dominance by and large. Okay. So if you've got a decent amount of progesterone, I don't know if you're taking a supplement that has progesterone in it or progesterone support. You may be somebody that burns through estrogen. There are many women that could be androgen dominant and they're not checking their androgens. So I don't know if you were looking at a blood test, okay? A blood test is going to look at just progesterone, testosterone, and estrogen. But a Dutch test would actually look at all of your hormones and all of your metabolites. Everyone on here, if you've never done a Dutch test, for the love of God, do a Dutch test, right? Because it'll show all of your hormones and all your metabolites and solve so many of the medical mysteries or clear up a lot of the confusion that you may have about your hormones. But a lot of times what happens when people get really stressed or the way that they diet will burn out estrogen, right? And maybe lower your testosterone. So it's not uncommon that some people will keep their progesterone. But a lot of times what's happening is you're taking something to support it. You're dieting or stressing or you're under eating and the other hormones start to drop out. Sometimes it can be a little bit of ovarian failure. Maybe you're going into perimenopause and the first thing that's lowering is your estrogen. That can happen. Some women with PCOS will also have that happen. But it's okay to have higher progesterone levels than the rest of your hormones by itself. All right. Let's go with one more question. I keep hearing about, okay, you want to do that one? Which one are we doing? What are we doing, producer Kenny? All right, a couple of them. All right, I keep hearing about people taking Ozempic for weight loss. Thoughts? Mary Beth, if you've never worked with a nutrition coach or a functional practitioner to get your weight down in a healthy way, then there's no way in hell you should go to Ozempic first. People who have normal metabolisms or have just not been dieting correctly, when they go to Ozempic first and they don't know how to diet correctly with it, they will eat a lot of muscle. They will learn a lot of bad habits. They will not eat enough food and eat too much of their muscle. And then they will gain more weight after it later. Doesn't everyone know the trick yet? We've seen it with HCG. We've seen it with Phentermine. We've seen it with all these fat loss drugs. And we still don't learn our lessons because every one of us wants the quick pill, right? The easy button. But I'm telling you, without the proper guidance, every tool is actually a trap and it's going to make your metabolism worse. All these people out here that are having a great time taking it, oh, it's amazing, look how great I am, all of this, they're gonna have to keep coming back to using it because their weight's gonna go back up. And then eventually the drug's not gonna work. And then what are you gonna do when the drug doesn't work and you've gained more weight than when you lost? And that's the trap of semaglutide. It should be used when metabolic markers indicate that it is efficacious and wise to do so. Otherwise, if you've not used other healthy methods first, do not jump to semaglutide. It is not your savior. All right, last one. Here we go. 37. Physically active 4 times a week. Not sure what that means. After certain meals, I show extra bloating and inflammation. Not losing weight or body fat as much as I would like to. Should I be doing a GI map test or a hormone? First off, this is a great question. What I'm going to suggest for you first is that you don't know if it's more gut or if it's more hormone, or you don't have any idea what's going on. So what I would recommend for you first is to just do our proprietary quick flush method. It's like a 12 to 20 to 24 day method. It's gonna flush your system out. And if all your gut issues go away, you're gonna know to check your hormones. If they don't, then you can start with your gut. It's a really good litmus test to figure out what the hell, I just feel bad and all this stuff's going on and I don't even know where to start. You start with the flush, go check out wellnessmastery.com. You can buy the flush for $197. It will take your assessments. It will build out a program just for you. Run through the flush. That will tell you what to kind of do next. Check it out, wellnessmastery.com. All right, with that, everybody, listen, we are going to go ahead and close this thing out. We'll go ahead and drop that. But I want to appreciate everybody. Again, we should, Thursday, if you see a post in the morning, we might do another live Metabolic Thursday, actually. I think we actually are this Thursday. So expect that for us to go live again Thursday around 5 if you're interested. All right, everybody, I'll see you all. But before we go, a word from our sponsor, Metabolic Mentor University.